You've got to decide how you change the world. What I'm here to say is, if we're going to have this conversation, and if we're going to model this conversation, then that conversation has to happen all over the country.
How racist am I? Ever ask yourself that question? And how does racism seep into every part of life? Healthcare, neighborhoods, education. The series Glad You Asked is diving into these weighty topics in a relatable way. And two of the hosts, Christoph Halverson and Fabiola Cineas, are with us this morning for a preview. Welcome. It's good to see both of you. Seems like some natural topics for the year that we've been through. Fabiola, let me start with you. Tell me how current events and events of the last year inspire what you do on this show.
So the last year we saw the country face a lot of just issues around race. We saw people, or specifically Black people, die at the hands of police officers. We saw just people come out under a president and just basically in the name of white supremacy. And so just seeing that reality in this country and seeing that we still have so much to do when it comes to countering racism, that really informed what we did on the show this season.
And we're seeing the same thing now with the attacks on Asian Americans. You know, that's top of mind right now too. Christoph, you have 5 episodes that you've done here, and starting with the one called How Racist Am I? Did it cause you to do any self-examination?
It did. I mean, I think, one of the best visual demonstrations that we did is my co-host Cleo had us all take implicit association or implicit bias tests. Which I think was certainly a way for all of us to kind of confront head on in front of a crowd what kind of biases that we might have internally deep down that we don't really think about day to day.
Can you share something that you learned personally from that?
Sure. I mean, the specific implicit bias test that I took had to do with association between race and violent weapons. I ultimately found that, my test result said that I did not have a bias, but I think, a big focus point of the episode is kind of the inherent weaknesses of tests like this.
Fabiola, I remember after George Floyd's death having a conversation with a friend who didn't know what systemic racism meant. Is this series aimed at showing people things like that?
This series is absolutely aimed at showing people things like that. So we explore racism in housing, we explore racism in education, we explore racism in health. And these are just bigger systems. So it's not just one person being racist to another person, but it's showing how the institution of housing in the United States or the institution of education in the United States just further reinforces racism. So we're so excited that we were able to tackle that huge topic.
And Christoph, I'll end it up with you. What do you all of you and your other co-hosts, hope to achieve by keeping up the conversation about these issues?
Yeah, I mean, if these episodes can be a starting point in conversation, allowing people to get uncomfortable, allowing people to have these conversations with their friends and family, I think that's the best takeaway we can have.
Yeah, and I think having conversations with people who might look different from us is really, really valuable and educational too. Fabiola and Christoph, thank you so much for your time. And you can watch Glad You Asked on YouTube.
Spain hosted one of the first live concerts in Europe this weekend. Some 5,000 people attended the concert in Barcelona after passing a health screening and COVID-19 test. Each concert goer was required to wear a high-quality mask, which were given out by the venue. And now each person in attendance will be closely monitored by health experts to see how and if COVID-19 was spread by the event. The hope is that the precautions put into place at this performance could be used in other parts of the world.
The nation's second largest theater chain reopens on Friday. Regal Cinemas has kept its more than 7,000 screens dark for the past 6 months due to the pandemic. Capacity will be limited to 25 to 50% occupancy at about 500 locations. There are 2 Regal Cinemas here in the tri-state in Wilder and Mason. CBS daytime TV show The Talk is set to return this week after the show parted ways with host Sharon Osbourne. As for the reason, the company blamed Osbourne's behavior during an episode on March 10th. That's when she had an on-air spat with co-host Cheryl Underwood, who questioned Osbourne's support for British TV host Piers Morgan. He was facing accusations of racism over his comments about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But after that, a news report alleged that Osbourne had a history of racist and homophobic remarks. The report quoted from her former co-host Leah Remini, along with unnamed sources. Osbourne's spokesperson disputed those allegations and called Remini disgruntled. The talk has been on air since 2010, and Osbourne was the last original co-host.
Well, if you visited the Hollywood area of Los Angeles, you may have seen or visited the giant Amoeba music store on Sunset Boulevard. The massive store is reopening at a new location, and Rick Damigella takes us on a tour.
In March 2020, as the